Okay, so hello and good morning. Welcome. My name is Alexander Riedel and I'm your moderator this morning. The setting is a bit special, but I'm confident that the technical systems will be with us this morning. So the COVID crisis has shown how important digital technologies have become in our daily lives, at work or at school, university. In our work in DigiConnect, we have used European supercomputers to accelerate the search for medicines and a vaccine against the virus. Investigating the potential efficaciousness of pharmaceutical modules against the genomic structure of coronavirus. And tracking apps helped to map the spread of the virus. Thanks to connectivity networks, we can have this virtual event this morning. But to make this possible, for all the digital devices and helpful apps, we need talented and digitally skilled people to develop and use them. And also due to digitalization, we see a structural shift in the nature of most jobs, which we expect to accelerate over the next years. So this is a change that concerns both the substance and the methods of learning, and impacts also on the what, the how, the when, and the where people acquire skills and competences. As you know, already today, around 90% of jobs require at least basic digital skills. And as the world becomes increasingly digital, everybody, or almost everybody, needs a basic understanding in order to navigate the way through life. And also, as some of you know, around 40% of European citizens and about a third of the EU labor force lack these essential skills. At the same time, there is an increasing demand for advanced digital skills. But here again, there is a real skills gap. Although the number of ICT specialists working in Europe has grown by 2 million over the last 5 years, many more are still needed. In 2019, 64% of large enterprises and 56% of SMEs that recruited ICT or tried to recruit ICT specialists in 2019 reported that they had some vacancies for which they had a hard time filling them. And then if we look more specifically at certain areas, we see that hundreds of thousands of jobs go unfilled because we don't have enough big data analysts or AI experts or others in Europe. Even if we talk about artificial intelligence, it still relies on qualified human talent, of which there is a notable shortage in Europe. And for this, I would like to invite Julia Anderson from Bruegel, who will tell us about her recent research concerning AI talent in the EU. Julia is a research assistant and co-authored an interesting blog post on Bruegel, which was published in August this year. And this paper tries to answer the question, how severe is Europe's dearth of AI talent and how does it compare to the US, China, and the United Kingdom, the world's AI champions? Julia, you have 7 minutes for your introductory remarks.
Hi, thank you very much for having me. Indeed, business leaders often lament the lack of AI skills. They say they have a really hard time filling the positions. So this lack of skills could have really important consequences in Europe. First of all, it could be a huge productivity issue in that if businesses are not able to adopt the tools that they need in their operations, they could leave big productivity on the table. It could also have an important consequences in terms of growing the innovative firms that Europe wants. If startups are not able to afford the talent that they need, because of course a lack of talent means an expensive talent, that could really hamper the EU's ambition in becoming an AI champion itself. So given the importance of the issue, we really wanted to know, okay, how severe exactly is Europe's lack of talent, in particular as regards AI, and how does it compare to the AI superpowers? So international comparisons are very hard. How do you ensure that a computer science degree in Germany is really comparable to a computer science degree in the US? So in light of this limitation, our approach has really been to collect a wide range of evidence, so that each piece of evidence, even if on its own is not sufficient to really come to a robust conclusion, as a collection of evidences, these perhaps, if they point in the same direction, might tell a story. So let me start with the first piece of evidence, which you can now see on the screen, and that's the number of computer science degrees awarded in the US, the UK, the EU, and in the case of PhD and master's degrees in China. So for Europe, we are notably lacking France, which could have a negative effect on the EU figures. But what we see broadly is that the EU has not made the kind of progress that we see in the US and in the UK over the last 8 years. Next slide, please. The second piece of evidence is has been collected by an institute that looked at the participant at important AI conferences, and scanning through their LinkedIn profiles, they identified the PhDs that had been trained in Europe and the PhD that had been trained in other regions of the world. And what we can see is that of the PhDs that had been trained in Europe, on the left-hand side here, a significant share ended up working abroad, and in particular in the US. While on the other hand, looking at PhDs that were trained abroad, but that were in the EU, only a small, the shares were much smaller. So the conclusion being that we train and lose more than we attract. Next slide, please. And another piece of evidence that I'll show you here is an analysis of LinkedIn profiles that was done by LinkedIn itself. And using machine learning techniques, they were able to identify AI skills in the workforce in different regions of the world. And here the conclusion points in the same direction, which is that the UK has 1.8 times more individuals with AI skills than the EU average, while the US has more than 3 times more people with AI skills in their labor force than the EU has. Next slide, please. And the last piece of evidence that I'll present here is an analysis of universities that offer AI-related programs. And looking simply at the number of publications, we can see again that the US is doing much better, and the other regions of the world are really training in that regard. Next slide, please. So that is not to say, or rather acknowledging that there's an issue is not to say that nothing is being done. I think France and Germany have been quite adamant about their intentions to overcome this skill shortage. So recently, I think a year and a half ago, the German government awarded 30 new, or announced that it would award 30 new professorships in AI. 2 positions have been filled so far. The Commission in its white paper, of course, declared very ambitious intentions as regard to attracting the best professors and scientists and to become a world leader in AI as regards education. Some budget has been also allocated in the latest EU budget, as was agreed on in July this year. Is it enough? I think that's a question we need to ask ourselves. There are important cluster effects that might mean that certain regions of the world, like the US, are more attractive to international talent. This suggests that the EU might need overly highly ambitious plan. And I'll be curious to hear what your ideas are in this regard. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Julia, for your highly relevant findings. Now, I think that will also be the basis for a number of hopefully interesting questions that we can discuss here. I just wanted to tell you that you also showed some information about a European program, and I want just to briefly mention two initiatives that Europe is putting in place. You know that there will be the next multi-annual financial budget that is coming up in 2021. There is no agreement yet by member states and the parliament on the different, say, envelopes for the different areas. But I mean, Europe at least can help with coordination and with bringing people together, but also with funding. And then perhaps we can discuss afterwards whether money alone makes it successful or not. So what you have also said are really priorities at European level. We do know that member states are in charge of education policies, but European Union can help. For example, I want to say that in the next few days we will publish the new Digital Education Action Plan, which will encourage member states to make better use of technology for education and increase the digital skills for our fellow Europeans. We have seen also during the last months, and I'm a father of somebody going to school and a university student, we see what the limitations were of European institutions, of also schools, universities, but also teachers in terms of using digital technology. It also is necessary that really the ambitions are matched by resources. And you have mentioned already what we are trying to do, for example, for the next EU budget, where we have proposed the Digital Europe program. And this program is supposed really to allow co-investment in state-of-the-art capacities in key digital technology areas, and also widen the diffusion and uptake of these technologies by companies in the public sector. 5 key areas in this Digital Europe program: high-performance computing, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity and trust. 4th is advanced digital skills, but also finally, 5th area, deployment and best use of digital capacity and interoperability. But of course, the Digital Europe program, and for the moment we're talking roughly about €500 million for advanced digital skills, will also be complemented by other programs such as Erasmus+, Horizon Europe, and the European Social Fund, which will fund also the development of digital skills in other categories. So it's really about also working together with member states, companies, universities, and the representatives around our virtual table today, I think, are quite a good selection of those people who are actually concerned by this topic. We will hear now in our little question and answers round from Alice Grazia, a psychologist and now a PhD candidate who went herself for a boost in digital skills by taking up a digital opportunity traineeship. We will have the perspective of a university professor, professor of computer science, but who's also a policymaker, Professor Paola Salomoni. And then, of course, companies have a very important role to play in all this. There we have invited Iker Martinez de Soria, who's head of digital skills and IR processes at Tecnalia, who is committed to improve people's digital skills to increase their employability and their ability to learn. And of course, also, Julia, you are very much well invited to reflect upon what is being said. So just a short message for me to you, also in the interest of of the people listening, please be short and snappy in your answers so we can really have an interesting discussion. I know that's a bit of a challenge today in terms of interactivity because we're not together, but just let's try to make it as interesting as possible for the people watching us out there. So I would like to start with Alice, who actually undertook this traineeship in the framework of the Digital Opportunity Traineeship Program. And I would like to ask you, could you tell us a little bit about this Digital Opportunity Traineeships and your experience? Was it a life-changing experience for you?
Well, of course it was. It was a very important opportunity for me, both professionally and personally. And it happened in the context of the Erasmus for Traineeship program organized by the European Commission. And it provided me the chance to complete my master's degree on one side and also to learn new digital skills on the other side, because I was allowed to work in the field of brain-computer interfaces.
Excellent. And this was really a life-changing experience also for you as a person?
Yeah, of course, it was a challenge because I was in another country. It wasn't the first time for me because I also performed other Erasmus programs thanks to these organizations. But of course, was the first job real experience for me. And it was in Austria, so of course I had to learn German, and it was very great for me.
Okay, sehr schön. Okay, let's go to the next colleague here. So Professor Paola Salomoni, you are, of course, a university professor, so you have this perspective, but you also have the perspective of a policymaker. So taking into account these two perspectives, what do you identify as possible solutions that can be put into place to train more digital experts in the EU? And perhaps also from your perspective, what are the challenges? I think we have a little hearing problem. I don't know whether you can unmute your microphone or the colleagues in the technical team can do something here. Now it sounds good.
Okay now?
Okay, perfect. Go ahead.
Perfect. So I think we have two different challenges to face with now, and the one we have, in mind is there is a big lack of professionals that we need to cover very fast because it's a problem of, impacting on the speed of economy. This is the first challenge, and we have, different ideas on how to cope with this. We have heard some ideas. We are thinking to put more money, more funding, and more efforts. But I think we have to also to consider in the same time the second challenge. And the second challenge is to start thinking to the next generation. Not just to work to have in few years, 5 or 6 years, a new generation of high-skilled professional, or to work with a workforce to improve the digital skills of the workforce. This is something that you can do and you have to do in the short term. But I think that the real challenge is to think to the long term, to the medium term, and start rethinking to schools, to the education of kids, and starting thinking to digital skills as something like a common good, something that everybody have to manage during life, from schools to the whole duration of the life.
Okay. Perhaps we'll come back to that with a number of follow-up questions in a second. So thanks a lot for that. Now, going to the business side of things, Iker, you have the perspective of an employer, but also somebody who's working on really trying to convince people to go and take the training. But starting with the first challenge, what are the challenges that companies are facing today in their digitalization process?
Well, the digitalization process is closely related to the digital transformation of companies. Having said that, the digital transformation of companies implies, in most of the cases, process reengineering to achieve competitive advantages using new technologies. In other words, a digital transformation is not buying a customer relationship management tool for sales teams or forcing employees to be more present on social networks, for example. Therefore, when we talk about digitalization process, we must distinguish between the classic vision of digitalization with the new vision of digital transformation. In general, for the digital transformation of a company, firstly, a very deep analysis of the current situation of the company must be done. Team, processes, business goals, challenges, strategic plans. This analysis will mark the future of the digital transformation, that far from being a general concept and applicable to everyone, brings together a set of changes that depend entirely on the individual characteristics of each organization. Therefore, although it is difficult to say specific challenges, I would say that the main challenges for companies, the first one would be the employees, the most important. This is the biggest challenge, and they play a key role. The talent of employees must be promoted towards new digital skills and competencies that the market will require. For example, the health sector. Employees are the very true value, although if they have digital skills, they will surely be able to do their job much better. Technology, in this case, is as the gear lever. And in the end, everything has an impact on business process of a company, and that has an impact also in products and services for the society. The second challenge, in my view, would be the resistance to a change. A high percentage of people perceive change as a threat and not as an opportunity. However, digital transformation requires change, and here, as it occurs in most of the cases, it is very recommended to have a very good leaderships in companies. The third challenge could be big data and advanced analytics, collect information, analyze it, and optimize your processes and services in order to offer better product and services to your customer. The tools that measure these values and how you translate it into a strategy depends on the company. And the last challenge, I could say, that is the lack of a clear vision for the future digital customer. Information has been democratized for a long time, and companies must find the social network of their potential customers and carry out a strategy for it.
Okay, well, that sounds good, at least in theory. The question is also why, if we know about, we have all these recipes, so to say, why is this not going to, why is it not happening widely already today? But that we will perhaps tackle in the next round of questions. I would also like to ask another question to Julia. In some of the curves that we could see on your PowerPoint, some of the curves were rather flat, where the other curves were going up or were going down. If we say that if a curve that is going up would be good for Europe, I mean, do we know the underlying reasons why some of these curves are going up, whereas others are staying flat?
No, and I think we need a lot more research, because it's not clear if it's a lack of investment. It's not clear if it's clustering effect, the fact that an industry is already there attracts talents somewhat naturally, or if it's even a demand problem. Maybe there is not a demand from young people to pursue these kinds of studies. So I think the signal is very noisy, and it's not really clear what the problem is. And maybe that's the greatest reason to really invest not only money but also energy in trying to understand these dynamics.
Okay, that perhaps gives us already the follow-up question to Alice Grazia, because understanding why young people are enrolling in certain courses, why they're taking an orientation in a special field, also has to do with motivation. And perhaps from your insights of these digital opportunities and your own opinion, what can motivate more young people, in particular girls and women, to go into, say, digital orientations, digital fields?
Well, that's a tough question, but I'll try to answer. Well, for me, it was the other way around. I didn't decide to study digital skills or computer and science, but I enrolled in psychology. And then my path brought me to neuroscience. And in order to study neuroscience, especially at the research level, you need these digital skills. So I was almost forced to learn, but it was, I think it was a very great experience for me. And I think to encourage also young women and young professionals to learn these digital skills is to say that everyone can start learning this. I didn't have a background in computer science before, but I still could learn on my own some technical skills that allowed me to continue my work in research. And in particular, also in artificial intelligence and brain-computer interfaces. So I would say that it's not necessary to start studying scientific skills in high school already, but you can always learn afterwards in the work environment.
Okay, perfect. So starting with Python and other things for AI, for example. But now a question again to Professor Salomoni, because we're talking about challenges, but also opportunities and recipes for basically addressing these digital skills gaps, and very often partnerships between, say, the business world and the academic world are some kind of recipe for making sure that curricula are up to date, but also that, for example, people can get some real life experience in a business or in a public sector organization. Do you have any experience, positive experience with that one? I think we have the microphone challenge again.
One of the real point we are considering is that we have to shift a whole ecosystem to be more attractive, because also the data that the colleague was showing before show that people move from Europe to other countries once they are skilled. So we are preparing people, and people is going to work outside. That means that we need a strong effect on the whole ecosystem, not just an effect on educational on the educational side. And I think that a big role is played by.
I just want to have a second. Yeah, I wanted to ask you on this specific point on the motivation. I mean, do you have any experience to share or any concrete examples from your experience how this worked?
I think that the innovation organization, and we have a very strong innovation organization here, and that is in this moment applying to become a digital innovation hub. So to focus, have a more strong focus on the digital side. That did different kind of program like that in the past, and for example, we are managing a sort of a regional academy on related to the Motor Valley, to the big player in automotive that are have their seat in Emilia-Romagna, and we have pushed to have together all the university of the region, all the big players, I mean Ferrari, Ducati, and Lamborghini, and so on, in an academy that is fostered by our innovation system, and is focused basically on new technologies, including a large part of digital skills related to automotive. I think this is a very strong example that we want to enlarge and use also in different sectors.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Thanks. Now going back to Iker and also coming from the theory to the practice, because you have also identified what should be done. But do you have from your own experience some examples you can share, or one concrete example where things worked, and for example, employees where in private companies could be convinced to engage in a reskilling or upskilling program?
I would say that companies must firmly bet on the continuous development of their professionals in terms of training with personalized professional training plans. considering the short and medium-long term. In addition, there must be an annual evaluation of the workers' performance to analyze the improvement at the qualitative and quantitative level when required by the position, of course. Carrying out training during working hours and financing training are some concrete actions in this regard. And on the other hand, companies should promote a culture and values based on continuous professional improvement in line with the business goals of the company and recognizing the achievements and efforts made thanks to the new skills. In my view, the best competitive advantages for a company come from culture, values, and talent management. So talent management must be a main key of the strategic plan of any company. Without this, it is difficult for companies to be competitive.
Mm-hmm. I wanted, do you have one concrete example from your work where you say, well, there was something we tried and it worked, or it didn't, and your personal insights on that one, to make it a little bit more concrete?
Well, if we're talking about the digital skills, it is a difficult question because it depends a lot on the sector, the digital competence profile, and whether we are talking about transversal digital skills or vertical digital skills. In relation to transversal digital skills, I would say that the most critical would be, first one, information, browse, evaluate data, manage data. Second one, communication, share, collaborate, interact with technology. Third, content, develop content, integrate content, programming. Fourth, security, data and device protection, and solutions in general, problem solving, identification of needs, and creative use of the technology. These competence areas would be oriented to professional profiles where digital skills do not have, let's say, an excessive depth in the business process. For example, an administrative assistant or a nurse could be examples of these cases. In Europe, we have the Beacon framework as one of the most important references on digital skills. But in relation to vertical and digital skills, I would say that the digital competences should be oriented to artificial intelligence, although even in this case, it could be necessary to focus on a specific sector, domains such as energy, transport, or defense, for example, cybersecurity, advanced software engineering, and in this case, I would include the high-performance architecture and secure software development lifecycle, and finally, the big data analytics, although it is largely related to artificial intelligence also. Mm-hmm.
Very good. No, that's very interesting. So we should not watch or observe digital skills in isolation. There's, the whole portfolio of also soft skills, technical skills, and digital skills needs to be taken into account. So there is also no one-size-fits-all solution, so to say. Now, if I can go back to Julia and your research, and basically what the key messages of that are now for, say, policymakers, but also for programming and funding at European level. I mean, do you think that pouring more money in specific areas at European level will motivate the actors in the field, i.e. also universities to do more and to offer more of these courses in advanced digital technologies?
It's not ensured. I mentioned this AI professorship program in Germany. That was the Humboldt, and they opened up those positions. It's 5 million euros, which seems quite competitive, and yet year and a half in, they've only filled 2 positions. Of course, it takes a long time to find the right people, but it means that people are not running at the door either. So it just means that it will be difficult. Of course, money can help, but I think, as you alluded to earlier, the dynamics are still not quite clear. Is it a demand problem? Is it a supply problem? If we really I think study these in detail, maybe we'll get a better answer as to how to spend the money best. And indeed, maybe it's not money. Maybe it's a cultural problem.
Okay, well, then it's a big of a challenge. Now, going forward, of course, I would like to ask all of you a bit more like a question going forward. If you were the one who could formulate some advice to European policymakers at the highest level and in specific domains, I mean, what would you advise these people to do in terms of policy measures, but also funding? But I'll formulate my questions a little bit specific to the areas, for which you are participating in today's panel here. So, going to Alice again, you participate in these digital opportunity traineeships, and we think that this was a very successful pilot, because we had, instead of 6,000 people participating, we already have 11,000 who participated in the pilot over the last 2 years. So this program is going to continue, most likely, under Erasmus+. Now, in view of your own experience in terms of content, setup, duration, would there be anything that you would do differently, or anything that should be kept?
Well, I think it was very important for me, the opportunity that I had by these European programs, the Erasmus per study, and the last one was the one for trainership. And I think that they should continue these programs because they would encourage people to go outside in the world and learn new cultures and new ways of working in different environments. So I think they should keep encourage these programs, and maybe, of course, increase these programs. For me, it was a great opportunity because it provided me the chance to now work in Germany. And I think that is thank you to my education in Italy, but also to these experiences that I made during my university years. And in fact, now I'm a PhD candidate in Germany. So.
Thanks a lot. Professor Salomoni, we were talking already a little bit about these partnerships between education institutions and companies. And if you had to give some advice to, say, the European Union or to local governments to really support these partnerships or these synergies at a specific level with something very specific, what would be your advice? If you can switch on your microphone, please.
Sorry, I insist to invest more on innovation and research, to start thinking to digital skill outside the digital realm. I mean, inside all professions need a very deep knowledge about some kind of new technologies like artificial intelligence, for example, in medicine. So the idea is to scale, to enlarge, and I think we have to enlarge program, trying to include, to be more inclusive and more horizontal than vertical. So to start to having an impact on the whole community and start thinking to digital skills as a common good. And I think also we have to start thinking to young people. So try to find a way to put this kind of synergy, industry and university together with schools, because we have to find in young people a new energy to change this kind of situation.
And any specific advice for the European level? Where is the European added value compared to, for example, what a local government could do? I
think it's a matter of synergies, and I think this is a kind of a tricky question, because there are a lot of programs, and the real challenge is to use the correct program and try to find the correct fund to activate the synergy or to start working on a track. So I think it's a very rich environment, and in this moment we also have a very large set of opportunities, And what we need is a very strong, we need to want it and to find the right way. But I don't think that we need strictly more. We need just to take the opportunity and start working very hard. That's my point. I know it's a weird answer, but I don't think that. I think we have a lot of opportunities, and Europe is doing a very good job. So we have to start working harder to get the opportunities.
Yeah. So that's the can-do attitude. Let's do it, so to say. Also, the question to Iker at the end now. If you were basically the one who would have to give one good piece of advice to the leaders of the European Union to tackle the shortage of digital skills, very concretely, one or two things, what would it be?
Well, to have a common vision in Europe regarding common certification schemes, for example, for cybersecurity, for all the countries.
Okay, why is this so particularly important for you, cybersecurity?
Well, cybersecurity or artificial intelligence, for example. The main key point is that Europe should have a common vision regarding their professionals. And I have the impression that each country maybe does work separately, and the implementation and the quality level of the digital skills can be different. For example, if Europe used the DIGCOM framework for digital skills in public administration, the way that France, Spain, or Germany will implement can be very different. So I would say that a common vision in digital skills, transversal or vertical, can be a very good point.
Okay, thanks a lot. I would like to perhaps give anybody who's still around here the time for one last question or suggestion, if there's anything, because we're going towards the end of the session. So anything that is really burning on your heart that you still would like to tell our audience here related to the topics that we have discussed. Yes, Julia, go for it.
I have a quick question for Paola. Has it been your experience that you've had programs that were under-attended? Are you missing students in any of your programs?
Paola, we have 2 minutes.
In this moment, I'm focusing on my region, so I don't have data on the Italian level. We have more. I need more students than the ones we can manage, and I think we are working to support them and avoid to lose some of the students during the past. And we are also introducing a new form of degree with 1 year of internship. That is really some kind of new form for Italy. I know that in Europe there are similar degrees and there is an history on it, but in Italy it's pretty new, and we will start this year. And we will start with 2 degrees that are related to technologies. One is computer science, and the other one is mechatronics. So there is a huge component of digital skills. So we are trying to include as more as possible. And if I can answer you with a question, the question is how we can push our professionals to stay. I think this is the big question to answer, because I know personally a lot of students, very talented people who end to work in outside Europe, and that's the point. And that's not education. We can have a very good education and somehow spend our money to foster the outside economy. That's crazy. So we have to find a way to capture them.
Thanks a lot. Yes, we are. So I thank you, all of you, for your fantastic stories, examples, solutions, and challenges. I think this is just the beginning, so to say. It was also very good last words by Julia and Professor. I would like to thank you again, also thanking to the audience. And as we all could see, we only started to scratch a little on the surface of this big problem. Thanks a lot. Have a good day, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
See you. Thank you.
Bye.